Hi, my name is Russell Mann, and today I'd like to talk about leadership. If you've been my friend on Facebook, you may have seen the posts that I've made regarding Brent Regan and David Reilly. And if you haven't, please take a look for context for this video. So, David Reilly is a candidate for school board on my ballot, and the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee posted an endorsement by a friend of mine named Alan Golub of David Reilly that seemed pretty suspicious. Now, for context, since then, my good friend Alan has rescinded his endorsement. It is no longer a thing. Um, he he's admitted that he made a mistake in that. And good people, good, honest people admit when they make mistakes, and that's good leadership. We're not always perfect all the time. I know I certainly am not. Um, so, what's the hullabaloo here? As I looked into this David Reilly fellow, I discovered that he had deleted his Twitter feed, and I went looking for the archives. And I found the archives on two different sites, archive.today and the Wayback Machine, and they corroborated each other, so it's pretty clear that it's valid information. And I scrolled through a bunch of his tweets over the past couple of years, so relatively current, not 15 years ago, not from when he was a kid. What I discovered, it upset me. Um, you know, Rather than using labels, I'll say clearly that his views do not represent me. And I don't believe they represent North Idaho. I don't believe they represent the Republican Party or any of my neighbors at all. His views are not conservative. Um, if you want more details on what views I'm referring to, please head to my Facebook page and find the post about that. I've detailed very clearly many tweets of his, so words of his own mouth, um, on his views. So I had posted. The Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, of which Brent Regan is the leader, um, had posted Alan's endorsement of David Reilly, and I had commented on that thread, challenging the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee's endorsement, on the grounds that it doesn't represent any of us. He doesn't represent any of us. The response to that challenge was really rather dishonest. So Brent Regan multiple times attempted to imply that the tweets weren't real. I'm pretty sure he knows they're real. He wouldn't come right out and say either way because I don't know why. Uh, what he did say implied that if they were in fact real, David Reilly does not deserve an endorsement. A real leader with a spine would step up and be very clear and transparent and do the right thing. That's not what we've been seeing from Brent and the Republican Central Committee. Now, I have many friends on the Republican Central Committee who I believe are wonderful people, who I've reached out to and discovered they did not vote for this endorsement. However, what I haven't seen is rescinding the endorsement. There was a meeting that I was waiting to hear about last Monday, and it turns out they didn't even bring it up, which I find very disappointing. At this point, the information is all out on the table, and good leadership would be to bring it up and at least put it to a vote. That's not what we're seeing here. Brent's responses have been evasive. They've contained personal attacks and personal ridicule, as if I was somehow a bad person for pointing out the available evidence about this candidate. I've also shared the private messages that message that Brent has sent to me, threatening me and making ridiculous claims. Please again check my Facebook wall for these. What Brent is doing, it reminds me of something. It reminds me of The Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, which is a left-wing handbook for political action. I don't think these things are conservative at all. One of the rules for radicals is to use ridicule. It says ridicule is a man's most potent weapon. There is no defense. It's almost impossible to counterattack ridicule. Also, it infuriates the opposition, who then react to your advantage. Brent is treating me this way. He's treating me with ridicule and attempting to infuriate me and treating me as if I'm the opposition for calling to account the Republican Central Committee for endorsing someone whose values do not represent us whatsoever. Another rules for radical that this reminds me of, it says pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. So he's clearly picked me as a target. As I've detailed in Facebook posts as well, he's gone on beyond personally targeting me individually. He's also gone on to publicly make wild accusations against me. And he's led his other members to also do the same thing, with again, all documented on my Facebook wall. Please check it out. Here's the thing. I don't think that's conservative. I don't think David Reilly's positions are conservative. I think they're absolutely just on another planet. They're not anything that represents us. I don't think that the way Brent is leading the Republican Central Committee is conservative at all. I do think that good conservative people who are in our area. I would say nearly every candidate for any race, partisan or nonpartisan, is a Republican in our area. The primaries for partisan races are essentially the general election. The R next to your name is what gets you elected in November. All that really matters is who wins in the primary. Even when we do elect Democrats, they're the most conservative Democrats you've ever seen. In 2008 or something, I think, we sent Walt Minnick to D.C., who's a Democrat, and he was called the bluest of the blue dogs. Literally the most conservative Democrat ever to serve in the National Congress. Our local Democrats are also, they would be considered far-right conservatives if you put them in King County or in Portland or in LA or San Francisco or New York. Very conservative people. We have a strong Christian sort of paradigm. Judeo-Christian is how I would put it. And actually saying that would, based on David Reilly's tweets, be very contrary to his worldview. So I'll say it. We have a Judeo-Christian paradigm here that is it's pretty widespread. So what the candidate David Reilly represents and what the methodology Brent Regan is using does not represent us, does not represent a Christian worldview, does not represent conservatism at all. So I think that the people occupying the 70 seats of the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee should demand better of their leadership. Are they okay with this tactic being used? Does the truth mean nothing to them? If we're abandoning conservatism to win, it's no longer a conservative party. It's a party for power, just a power party. If you win with these tactics, what have you won? If you've lost your conservative philosophy, you're just choosing the tie color of your tyrant. All right, I want to talk about what leadership means to me right now. The year 2020 was wild for all of us. And as I sat here with my work from home business that I didn't have to leave, I've been doing that for years. It didn't affect my lifestyle. Lockdowns didn't. It was actually kind of nice to ride my bike without very many cars on the road for a minute. As I sat here and I saw what was going on around our country with the various different reactions in different states, including our own, and then around end of May, early June, we started having riots because of the George Floyd killing, and those riots resulted in burning police cars in Seattle, and then Nike store being destroyed and looted in Spokane, and the following day, my hometown here of Coeur d'Alene, people turned out with all the big scary guns they had, and no rioting or looting happened here. was quite an interesting experience, and that boy, that led to uh, kind of a bunch of different responses. Um, some people felt rather unsafe by having people with guns open carrying in town, and other people felt unsafe if there weren't people open carrying with guns in town because there's been rioting and looting going on in undefended cities. And I found myself speaking to a friend of mine who is a black person who I serve on a nonprofit board with, very good friend, and we were talking about this, and I asked her, what would she do about it, and she had such a thoughtful, nuanced reply, and I don't remember the details, but I just remember thinking, wow, if someone like you can think through this issue so carefully and thoughtfully, why aren't you leading? And I asked her that. I said, why aren't you leading? Why aren't you the mayor of town? And then a couple days later, I was speaking to somebody else, and I had a very similar conversation, not about the same issue, but about something else. And I heard another thoughtful, nuanced reply that it sounded like good leadership. It sounds like what you would want to hear from a leader. I said, why aren't you serving? Why aren't you stepping up? And pretty soon I found myself looking in the mirror, and it turns out if you point your finger at somebody, you got three pointed back at you. And so I had to ask myself, what am I doing to lead? How am I stepping up? So I took that as a challenge to myself. And really, I don't want to have anything to do with politics. And what I found is the people who I speak to who have, really wise, thoughtful ideas, they don't want to have anything to do with politics either. One of the major reasons is it's a nasty business. People get nasty. If you want to see an example of that, take a look at the thread of Brent Regan's personal attacks on me. Nastiness. But a leader has courage. A leader doesn't back down from threats and nastiness. A leader steps up when those things happen. The biggest issue we have, I believe, in our society from top to bottom is trust. There's an enormous loss of trust from the level of the executive to Congress to healthcare to education to school boards. All of our institutions are suffering from a lack of trust. There's only a couple of ways to repair that trust. One of them is transparency, and good leadership is transparent, period. In addition to transparency, good leadership has to be honest. Trust is built with honesty, integrity. Utilizing dishonest tactics for winning elections or trying to win elections, that's poor leadership, and we can see it happening right now, and I think we should reject it. You may be asking yourself, what can I do? How can I step up into good leadership? Well, first of all, if you're in my neighborhood and David Reilly is on your ballot, don't vote for him. The other guy is just as conservative as you could imagine. He's also against the bad things that are going on in the school system, and he is excellent candidate. Second, if you are another candidate that's been endorsed on the same endorsement card as David Reilly, you should disavow the endorsement. It's time to lead. It's time to step up and make it clear that David Reilly's values do not reflect on you. I know they don't, but you need to make that clear. That's leadership. If you are a voter in North Idaho, send this video to the other candidates on the KCRCC endorsement card. Ask them to watch this and ask if they will disavow the KCRCC endorsement. Spread the word, please. There's one more level of leadership that I want to ask you to consider. You can find out what precinct you're in. There are 70 in Kootenai County, and consider running for precinct committee person. I'll provide the link to the precinct maps, and I'll provide the link to the committee list so you can see who is currently in office representing you at the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee. There's going to be an election soon for committee people in the next year, and If good conservative people who won't put up with these uh, non-conservative tactics will run for the committee and potentially get elected, we can put a stop to this nonsense. We can provide quality leadership. I know that it's going to take some courage, but I believe you have it within you.